Welcome to the View Looks Good podcast with And Passos and me, Kim Van Niekerk. We are touring through everything that it means to live and work nervous systems first and sharing it all with you here. New to season 4 is an invitation to start this episode with a brief moment for you. Enjoy the music and we'll meet you on the other side.
Kim, today I would like us to put the topic of money on the table, but specifically relationship with money. I think this is something that many of us struggle with. I've definitely gone through feelings of like, I don't want to have anything to do with money. I don't care. Like, I hand it all over to my husband. I don't know how much we earn. I don't care. I don't want anything to do with money. To like, oh, I really wish I could get a really big client with loads and loads of money in there, so I can just buy all the things I want in my life. Then listening to what people spend money on and be like, for that amount of money to do that, which is so like ridiculous. You could probably feed families in different parts of Africa, but definitely South Africa for months, if not years. Like, it doesn't make any sense. How can you have so much and some people have so little? So money is such a loaded thing, and our relationship to it is often so slippery and non-existent because of everything that money stands for us. And the other day, you had this wonderful experience and insights in relationship with money. And as you were talking about it, I could feel a shifting inside of me from a total resistance towards the topic to almost like this feeling of putting my arm out to reach it and invite it into my life. And it's the first time I've had that experience, where it actually felt like I could see it, I could embrace it. And that's why I would like us to talk about this for our audience, because that shifting felt really significant. And although this is all still very new and we haven't worked out the formula to how to have the best relationship with money so that you get loads of it, I don't know what the outcome of this will be, but the sensation that I felt in that moment was as if something had been lifted off my chest, that I could feel a gentleness for it. I could feel a gentleness for my relationship with money. I could feel an okayness.
Well, what comes to mind as I'm listening to you describing, this experience with money is I can hear you describing being out of relationship with money. And if I think about, the question like, are you good with money or are you bad with money? I mean, it's super judgy, but it's really, are you in relationship, healthy relationship with money, or are you not in relationship with your money? And I think that was the big aha moment for me of, oh, I've also not been in relationship with my money. I've been avoiding looking at it, just making sure there's enough to do this and this. But it's very sort of, it's like if I had to describe it, it's a neglectful relationship. It's one that says, I'm never quite sure about you, so I'm not going to look at you too much. And again, it's been such a lovely thing to explore through nervous systems because it just is like, oh, right. Being out of relationship with money, I notice my body either going into sympathetic of, right, well, I'm going to have to now massively control things, spontaneous decision making, or like, let's just do it and we'll find a way to sort it out later. So I think that's when you would step into lots of like, put on the credit card and we'll work it out later kind of situations, or sort of spending on stuff because it feels like it has to happen, but you're not really sure where the money's going to come from. Um, or really overly managing it really tightly so that there's just no wiggle room. There's no sense of safety with more will flow in, or we could get creative about how we generate more or how we, try and get more interest coming in on things. There's such a tight holding on to the reins that it's almost like suffocating. All of that is very aligned with our sympathetic nervous system being activated. The flight part of that sympathetic nervous system is, yeah, I'm just, um, I'll look at it, but then I'll ignore it for ages, and then I'll look at it again, and then I'll ignore it for ages, and then look at it again and ignore it for ages, and it's still not a deep, healthy relationship. And I certainly have spent a long period in that dorsal nervous system response of that sort of shutdown, like just completely avoid. Like I can't even bring myself to go and look at financial situations. It's just, nope, can't. And actually, I can even see the freeze state creeping in when it's um, I know I need to look at my money, but I can't. I know I want us to be in a different situation, but I can't deal with it. I haven't got the headspace. And the like panic that like rises up of like, we need, how are we going to work it out? But I just can't, you know, that challenge of when both of those survival states are activated. And, um, but it was really this wording of like, am I in relationship or am I not in relationship? And I was suddenly like, what would, what would being in relationship look like? Like, where do I have something where I feel like I am in relationship? And the first thing that came to mind for me was being in relationship with my kids. Like, mothering is being in relationship, and I know that I can mother from my survival states as well, but I can mother from my safety state, that ventral state of where I feel balanced and calm and relaxed, and that just feels like I'm paying attention to them. So I'm looking at them, I'm listening to them, I'm present with them. And I was like, well, what would that look like if that was money? Oh, well, that would look like me opening up the app and taking a little look. How are you doing today? It would be me being concerned with their welfare. Like, how are you in the best possible place for you to grow? Is there a different account that would actually make you feel healthier? Could I do something with you that's going to feel better? Um, and that's been really like game changing because I've been like, well, I'm going to sit and open up and check how's it going today. I've never done that in my history of earning money or having any money. I've never sat and checked if it's a how it's doing. Um, I have also noticed that when I spend, I often have this rising sort of feeling of like, oh God, I'm spending money. Like this tightening, which feels very much like a sympathetic state of like fear. I'm spending now, but is there going to be anything coming back in to fill the pot? Instead of what would feel like a much more grounded relationship of, I know and I trust there's something coming in, so it is okay to spend this, and having the gratitude that it's there to spend, which has also meant I don't really feel very comfortable spending something that isn't there in this headspace. So there's less comfort. I don't really want to put it onto a credit card unless that's going to give me some cool thing like an Avios point that's going to help me, and then I'm just going to immediately pay it off. And then when you're like working the system instead of the system working you. Um, and so it's making me want to really nurture my savings accounts. I want to see it coming in, and then I'm going to feel like, great. And now I have the gratitude to spend it because it's there. And I am going to, instead of feel a bitterness, it's so unfair that I haven't got, but others have got, or like, why can that person just spend on that, but I can't? It's like, and therefore making money bad because it's spent in ways you wouldn't necessarily spend it. There's a lot of judgment I know that I can feel creeping into my body over how someone else spends their money. But that's all just fear and lacking in the body, like a sensation of because you have and I don't have, my survival feels threatened in some way. And I've also heard people say money is abundant. Like there's an endless abundance. If you look at a lot of mindset coaches around money, they'll talk about you've got to feel like there's an abundance. Money is just energy and it's just abundant. Now, that's quite a far-fetched stretch for people to get their heads around. But if we played with that as an idea, and you could bring the body into a feeling of abundance, that there were endless ways for it to come to you, that there was an endless amount available for everyone, that there was a universal availability. It's just whether are you shut off from it because you're in a fear state with it, or are you in relationship and connected to it because you absolutely trust it can come in. And again, this feels like it's really playful for me to go in and explore that. But what if? What if there was an endless amount available? Because certainly the way some people manage to rack it up makes it feel to me like this could be a legitimate thing. What if it was? How would my nervous system feel if there was an endless abundance of it? I noticed that I'd feel a lot more relaxed. I'd feel curious. I would probably be scanning for where's the opportunity. I would feel more confident in conversation with people, with clients, where there's an abundance of budget, because I would feel like I could be in relationship with that big budget. Does that make sense? So instead of all the negative chat that can start to creep in of, can we handle a client that big? Have we got enough skill to do that? Could we work on that? Are we the right people? Like all the negative chat that creeps in when those survival nervous states are active aren't present. So do I make the most of those opportunities? Do I step into those conversations more confidently, more boldly? Absolutely, in a ventral state. Do I think about how I would resource a big project like that instead of, oh, we haven't got capacity, so we can't apply? Or, there's so much that begins to open up in my behavior that is open to interacting with bigger pots that then becomes really interesting. So it is fascinating. I love the idea of playing with beliefs that could open you up. And what if you could get your body to believe something that helped switch on a more grounded, balanced, relaxed, alive, playful relationship.
I want to just draw on that one there with beliefs, because it's not so much make yourself believe something that's untrue in itself, but it's also we have all these beliefs about money already. Like, and many of
Yeah,
them are very warped. Like they're not helpful, but
yeah,
they're what we have come to believe about money.
yeah,
So I find it really fascinating in this practice and what you're sharing, because it makes me think, just like most of the things, that these emotions we've been experiencing and the thoughts we've been experiencing are just indicators and information for us to understand our nervous system state. It feels like money, because it's so loaded, is a source of information to see how we're responding in this moment and what belief is it touching on, and
yeah,
is that belief even worthwhile believing, or can we play with a different belief around that? Well, how do
yeah,
I start to build up healthier narrative that allows me also to be in relationship with money? And actually, what I'm hearing as I listen to you now is we're talking about a relationship with money, but it is just relationship and connection with each other and with universe at the end of the day. Um, Money being just a really lovely, tangible part of that to look at and help us figure it out and notice the connection. But it is like, how am I connecting with myself in that moment? I
yeah.
was just saying I've been spending money on myself every week for therapy sessions, which before was like, oh, I could never spend that. And it's like, oh, I
Mm,
can. Like, what is my belief? I don't value myself enough to spend that. I refuse to get my hair cut more than once a year because that would just be too much. Like, maybe I'm allowed, like, perhaps I just want to get my hair cut because I would like to pamper myself a little bit.
mm,
Why
mm,
why can't I show myself a little bit of self-love? But there is definitely a belief I've noticed that I'm working through this year of self-worth, value. That's actually something you're allowed to do, because I have
mm,
this narrative of, firstly, you're not allowed to, and if you had that kind of money to spend on yourself, you should be spending it on something else or someone else. So
mm,
don't there in itself has been an opportunity for me to look at my relationship with money, and because of in that specific instance, and because of that, to have a look at my relationship with myself and to grow. And now something has shifted in me in how I might spend money, or as you said, um energy is currency, how I might just spend some time showing some self-love.
yeah.
It doesn't even have to come at a huge expense. It can just be allowing myself to have an hour to myself for a walk,
Hmm.
a
Yeah,
sleep, a
yeah.
sleep in the day, which I'm not allowed to have. Oh, yeah, I'm allowed to have it.
But I think it would be so interesting. I I think it's a really lovely exercise to sit down and work out what are my beliefs around money. And that was something that popped up for me last week. And, because these beliefs that we have are usually the result of so much, right? It's what we noticed in our parents and what they taught us about the relationship with money, which got taught from normally their parents and their families. And so you've got this generational set of beliefs around money. Then you've got cultural. If you're growing up in various parts of society, or just depending on your postcode and what you're surrounded by, you're gonna have another set of beliefs. Um, yeah, like there's so much that impacts and reinforces beliefs around money. And it's lovely just to say, okay, well, what are they? What are they? And when I was looking at that last week, it was really interesting that I just noticed that a lot of the time my relationship with money was um it's not comfortable. So like I feel like I walk on eggshells with money, or it feels like there's something threatening always with money. It felt like the money comes in, but there's a belief that it always gets chopped up into tiny little pieces and divided, and then there's nothing left. A belief that you could have loads and then it could just be gone overnight. Like it could just get wiped out. It was lovely as an exercise to do that. But then there's also well, what else could it be? That it is for other people, because that's just with my experience. Um, and the idea of like there could be something, then it gets chopped up into little pieces, and then it gets divided, and there's nothing left. I mean, maybe to help you visualize this a bit better, like if it was a block of wood that was being chopped up into smaller pieces of kindling and then given out to everybody, and then there's nothing left, is to ignore the fact that there's a huge forest around you. And yes, how wonderful to be able to resource from this forest and chop it up and share it. That's a very different, wonderful feeling in my body than there's only this much and it all is going to disappear. It could feel, yes, it's like walking on eggshells, but it could also feel comfortable and soft and reassuring. That's also a sensation that money could be. It could feel, if it's not feeling threatening, it could feel playful. It could feel like, wow, what adventure could money bring in? Money could feel playful. So I think that's the exciting space to explore now. I think I am looking to redefine those belief sets as an experiment. If I step out into my day and money feels playful and it feels abundant and it feels wonderful to give a little bit to this supermarket and a little bit to this parking meter, and because it can go there, because there's a feeling that's I'm resourced. um yeah, it's a lovely play in this body of feeling in relationship with it, and it's okay for it to flow out because I feel it's okay that it flows in. um And as I'm saying this, I'm also hearing, oh, but that doesn't mean you could just go and spend loads if you've not, you can't just go and spend it if it's not coming in. And so wow, that critical voice is still there trying to protect.
And that's the invitation for the relationship with money, right? Because when we're
Mm,
in relationship with money, we don't overspend to the point where it's unsustainable. We don't cut down the forest unnecessarily so that no one else can ever be able to benefit, or nothing else, including all the rest of nature. There is a relationship that helps us know, yeah, that's enough. That's what I need
yeah,
it for right now. Um, and I've got two things popping up for me in my own experience. One was this realization at one point of knowing I will always be okay. Like I will always be okay.
mm,
I don't need to, like, I had this fret around money. I'm like, I'm not gonna be okay. I'm gonna be without. I'm gonna be without. And then I can't remember what it was that happened, because this is about 15 years ago maybe. But I remember having the significant moment, suddenly realizing like, oh, I'm actually gonna be okay. And that changed a lot of the fret. Like it's not as if money suddenly flew in, but it changed the fretting around money, which was an unnecessary energy spend that wasn't helping or contributing anything to my life. And by
mhm.
taking that out, life became fuller, for that one reason. And then on a more depressing side of it, realizing that I didn't necessarily have a relationship with money, of like that money needs to stay in the bank and I don't know how to ask for it, and perhaps again in terms of self-value, when I was pregnant for the second time, and I could feel something was wrong, but we were in South Africa where I didn't have insurance and I didn't know how to ask for the money, and I didn't know, and I was scared that if I went to doctors, everything would be too expensive. And so instead, I just shut myself off from it.
Mm.
And unfortunately, I did miscarry that little one. And so it was a really hard time. And it was one of those things of, why would I want to be so far removed from all the resources I have out of a fear of being able to be in relationship with it?
Yeah.
And especially when I found out afterwards how ridiculously cheap, especially compared to the UK, it would have been to go and do that. It was like such a silly, like I couldn't even ask the question of
Yeah.
money. That's how far removed I was.
Yeah.
And since then, it's given me the courage, or if it's the courage, if that's the right word, but it's allowed me permission, perhaps is the word coming, to just talk about it and ask, I have a need. Is it possible that we have the finances for it?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great. Cool. Is it possible we have the finances for this? No. Okay. I know. But that only happens when you allow yourself to open up to that. It
Yeah.
does. And when we don't, then it's not there. It really is not there. It's not available. But when we express the need, when we come in relationship with that, then it can be there. And so far what I'm
Yeah.
finding is that when I express the real need, and so this is in relationship with my needs as well, when I express the real need, the finances are there one way or another, whether it's actual physical money that we have in the bank account to pay for it, or someone comes in my life that can offer this um in exchange for a different skill set that I can offer.
Mm.
It is there.
Mm.
And that's what I find amazing, is the relationship piece does allow for things to move forward and for us to grow. But yeah, so it's not just a woo, go buy myself
Yeah.
a super yacht.
It's kind of coming back to that image I feel of like that I'm really connecting to of like mothering money. And it's not for everyone. And I think that's the beauty of this is like it's finding the the little switch for you that allows you to come into relationship with money. But like I would never sit my kids down and be like, right, you're going to do homework for the next 20 hours, push them, like go to X number of clubs and they're like, like on the floor, like finished. Like you just would never push your kids beyond what they have capacity for. And I'm really saying that right now because we're at the end of term and there's no capacity for anything. So you're not asking for it, are you? And I think it's the same thing. Like if there's no capacity in the money pot in that moment, you're not asking for it. But it's not a sense of they're never going to have the energy for it later, or they're going to not learn anything if they're not doing 20 hours of homework. Do you know, like it's there. It's just it's a flow, isn't it? Like it's like how much is there right now, and like as kids grow as well, like they're widening their capacity for what they can intellectualize and be with and do, and that's their evolution. And I feel like it's the same way with money, is that it's you're gently nurturing and widening the flow of it in, and you are not exhausting it when there's nothing there.
And what I'd like to carry on with the idea of mothering money, or that parent nurturing, is that sometimes we do push our kids and we ask of them more than what they're able to do. And then
Yeah,
we see the repercussions of that with the meltdown,
yeah,
breakdown.
yeah,
It is quite what's spontaneous, not spontaneous, instant. Like
yeah.
that also happens with money. Sometimes I
Yes.
don't spend it well, or I do ask of it more than it is, and it will speak back to us and be like, no, 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 it's just too much. So it's
Yeah,
nice to know that it's not as if there's a perfect, just like there isn't a perfect way of parenting, there isn't a perfect relationship with money, but there is conversation. There is an
yeah,
opening up of conversation and growing together that is also um it's fun. It is fun to play with it. And I mean, this is fairly new that you and I are having this conversation around the relationship with money, but perhaps subconsciously there have been parts of us that have played with our money and our relationship in different ways. And
definitely.
and this has felt like such a lovely contribution of the making sense of the chaos. Like all of
Yeah,
that was sort of just done. And then when you said this to me last week, I was like, Yes.
Well, I was with friends recently, and I know that I historically have always had some kind of narrative on money in the catching up on how things are, and it would normally be like, "Oh, it's feeling a bit tight on this," or "Oh, this is really expensive." This chat has been there. It feels unsafe, like a survival mode, and it didn't come up once.
Mm.
And it wasn't intentional. I wasn't consciously doing it. It just wasn't, it just wasn't present. And that feels, because I know I don't want to be negative about money, but trying to stop yourself from being negative with money is really hard. When you are actually negative with money, when you're not in relationship with it. So I'm uh I've also realized I had so much more playing to do than I thought I had.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is there were ways in which I could move it and nurture it and look after it and have it feel completely different. And that's within a couple of weeks. And the difference psychologically is enormous,
Mm.
and nothing has changed. It's not like I'm suddenly, generating a whole new level of income. Like nothing has changed, but what was actually available in terms of reorganizing was always there. And because I was not in relationship with it, I wasn't doing it. And it has made it so much more satisfying, and exciting.
I have one thing, and then there's always two things, Kim. There's always two things. The one is, I mean, we're in a fairly comfortable financial situation compared to many, and yet we can have these hang-ups around money. So you realize like it's not really about how much you have, it is the relationship with it. And there are people that I know that have got far more than I do, and yet they got money issues. So it's not about how much money you have, it's the relationship. And I know people who have much less than I do, and yet they are creating lives for themselves that they're so happy with. So again, I would
Yeah.
just want to reiterate that it's not about the
What a hard
amount.
one to get your head around that, though, isn't it? Like, I really agree with you. I really feel that deeply. But it's very easy to make money the problem, not your relationship with money.
And society. Ah, it's so
Yeah.
annoying. I mean, I
Yeah.
struggle a little bit with the inequality in the world. I haven't quite gotten my head around that. I still have judgment. And like, it's just not fair that the 1% have
Yeah.
so much while the rest have so like there's a huge percentage that
I
has
can
so.
actually feel your body twitching on
Oh,
that.
yeah. I haven't found my relationship with that. So I noticed how easy it is to make society wrong about our approach to money, and therefore continue the resentment for money. Uh, and yet I can also feel the invitation in me at the same time of saying, well, you're not going to change society by hating it either. It's not going to redistribute the money. So come in relationship and find answers through that direction. Because we don't know if that will or won't change society, but it's got a lot more chance of doing it.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the second point that I wanted to bring up, and that is the way we talk about money to our friends and society. And I'm amazed at how often that talk there's again, it's perhaps a bit of fear of like, oh well, I've just said we can do this, but like I'm gonna have to sell a kidney for it. And it's not necessarily true, but we say that because we don't want to sound like we have too much money, or we don't want to make people who have less money than us
Mm.
feel bad, or it's a funny thing to say. I don't know, we've got all this weird way of talking about it, and I don't think it's dissimilar to the way we talk about our kids sometimes. We can love them dearly, and then we go into society and be like, oh, kids, they drive you crazy, can't believe they did that, and we pick out all their worst characteristics for some unknown reason. I don't
Mm.
um, so I feel as part of this invitation of forming a relationship with money, it's it's also around how we speak about it to the people around us. And it was lovely to hear that you're saying when you were with your friends, that way of speaking didn't really come up in that same way, not because you consciously were trying to tell a different narrative, but because you had this wonderful insight and experience with money, with your relationship with money, that it starts to change the narrative. So I don't know. It's feeling like there's two, like the conscious choice not to speak about it, but and also the natural change in how we speak about money because of what's happening and shifting in us.
I mean, I definitely value the like it just subconsciously happened because like I could do with that not taking up the headspace. Um, but there is something, it almost feels now like I would be betraying my relationship to
Mm.
talk badly because now I feel like I'm coming into relationship and there is so much gift that money is bringing. Well, why would I ever talk badly about money? Because it's so good to me, you know? I am in connection with I know, don't get me wrong, I know the feeling of disconnection. And that is also an experience, but it is only part of an experience that I can have. I can also have an experience where I'm in connection with it and I have a healthy relationship with it. And then it's really hard to talk badly about the healthy relationship that you have. And it's never going to be, I'm not expecting it to be perfect. I know that I'm going to have a grumble about like the price of eggs at some point, and that's okay because then I can come into relationship with that and be like, and let's be grateful for the money that's getting to actually go to farmers for that, and the fact that that it is there to be able to afford to have it, and that is spending it on something that is healthy. Do you know, like there is a returning to relationship that you can always have. I think when you've fallen out of relationship, that's also really important. Like this doesn't have to be like I think like you were saying earlier, like this doesn't have to be a perfect relationship with money, but it's one that you can nurture to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And when you're not in a good place with it, you can remedy that and you can come back into a better place with it. I have to say that to myself because I know it's not going to be perfect.
But it's also it's one of life's wonderful ways of letting us know that we're not okay in ourselves. Because when we're wobbled, then topics like money are one of the first alarm bells, the smoke alarm to go off. To go, whoa, 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 you are not okay either. Like take some time to find your balance again. And then
Mm,
it's perhaps the other things down the line are a bit further along. They've got to wait for the actual fire to be burning, perhaps before some other parts of our life
mm.
to really let us know, the real burnout, like our bodies in collapsing on us. So money is a really good friend.
Yeah. You know, the other thing that's suddenly I've just realized is that I'm not making comparisons in the same way. So it's a little bit maybe like when you've got a relationship, like an actual relationship, maybe like a partner that's really healthy and you're really solid in it. You don't look at other people who are in solid relationships with envy because you're there.
Mm,
But if you're in a relationship where things are not solid, and we've all been there, or you're not in relationship with someone and you have an absence of it, and you're looking over at someone who's got a really strong relationship,
mm,
there's a comparison, there's an I want, there's a missing, there's an absence that then appears. And that's also something I'm really noticing, that the more I have a relationship with money, I'm not looking at others who have more in a way that makes me feel I have less.
mm,
It's just I have connection, so I've got connection.
mm,
It doesn't matter that yours looks different. I've got my connection. And that suddenly feels really notable.
mm. Yeah, that really resonates with me, and that like when we're content in ourselves, it doesn't matter what others are, because This, like, it's feels like the lining up of everything in our lives to feel that connection, feel that flow as the dancer, feel that couple dancing just in perfect harmony with the
Mm,
music. It just is satisfying in itself. It's
yeah.
satisfying. It doesn't need anything else because that is satisfying.
Yeah.
The other part I did realize is that because we are part of society where this is not necessarily the norm, we are going to find ourselves bumping up against people who still have the old narratives and say the old things. And it might be tempting for us to be like, you're doing it wrong. Have your relationship with money. But it's also invites the compassion for, okay, so this is where my friendship circles are, or the parents, or the society, or that we're part of. It's none of it is wrong. It's just learning how do we do it for ourselves. I did say this when we spoke about it last week, and your experience that you had in imagining money as a child that you love and want to nurture completely changed how you perceived it. Made me think, oh, I'd love to do this for physical appearance, for the places we live in, for intellect. I mean, there's just so many aspects of our lives where we do not nurture it. Whether you are a mother or not, or it's fathering, being a friend, being a sibling, just
Mm,
to know that
nurturing,
that
yeah.
love for where you wouldn't in a million years want to wish harm, or difficulty or loss to someone else. I think that's something we can all relate to, is to see how can we look at different aspects of our lives with that same level of compassion. And if we did, how would that alter the way that we approach those areas of our lives?
Mm,
So yes, we've started talking about money, but it feels like a wonderful invitation to look at many aspects of our lives with
yeah.
the same lens. How
Thank
about
you.
you? Yeah.
Now it's just like, okay, well, let's line up everything else we're gonna have to now go and tackle. But for now, it feels good to have extended relationship into this area. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening. Until next time. Want to dive in? Visit our website at theviewlooksgood.com to discover more about how you can support your nervous system in your personal space, or supporting your nervous system in the workplace, whether for yourself, your team, or the organization. On the website, you will also find a link to sign up to our newsletter and a link to join our community where you can continue to practice in a completely judgment-free space. Now we invite you to go into the world, being unapologetically human. Enjoy.